believe it or not, I actually didn't plan for it enough to actually make an intro for this video. So if you haven't seen the minisode review that I did, click here and it'll take you to the minisode review. Or click the link down in the description. That'll also take you there. Intro time! Hello everyone, I'm Papa Ken, and welcome, hey that was nice, welcome to episode 52 of Discovering Doctor Who. Today the episode I'm going to be talking about is The Vampires of Venice. And as always, let's get right into my favorite parts of this episode, starting with the stag party. The introduction to the episode itself, when the Doctor pops out of the cake and Rory is there with all of his friends. It's been a long time since I've seen guys wearing like coordinated shirts for bachelor parties. I don't know, but just overall, that entire scene was perfection. Comedic perfection. That has to be one of the funniest scenes just overall. I mean, it didn't have me barreling over laughing, but it was smartly written. Is smartly even a word? I don't know. But it was really well written and just really well timed and just great. It had me cracking up completely. Now, my second favorite part of this episode was Rory and Amy and their entire dynamics throughout the entire episode. For one, they had some really good comedic moments. I mean, without a doubt. The way we finally got to see the two characters play off of each other, and in this season get to see Amy play off of someone other than just the Doctor, for once. But yeah, I really like the dynamics that have been established with those two, and I can already tell a little bit of improvement, or maybe more character development with Rory. Yeah, than basically Mickey had at this point. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he grows, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the relationship of Amy and Rory develops over time, because I mean, it was obvious that, you know, they are apparently in love, or at least that's the vibe I got from this episode, especially at the end where Rory had his little fight, if you want to call it that. I'll actually bring that up in a few. But yeah, it was really good. I really like the dynamics of those two. Now, my third favorite part of this episode, believe it or not, was the vampires. I use air quotes because obviously they are not really vampires. They're fish-like people. They're aquatic kind of alien things. But basically, to sort of boil that down a little bit, the vampires, Signor Calvierri, first of all, her character was really well done. Maybe except for the very end of the episode, but I really liked her character. She just had a very powerful presence, a very beautiful presence, and just she was very, I don't know that matronly is the right word, but she was a very powerful presence, basically a queen, which I guess is technically what she was, but you could definitely tell that she was, like, she embodied a queen of her people, essentially. And then there was also Francesco. He was hilarious for a few reasons, especially, again, that little fight between him and Rory near the end. That was just great. But he was an interesting little character. Didn't really get to know a lot about him, but the person that played him, I felt, did a pretty darn good job. And then there was I guess you would call them the vampire girls, and while they weren't the best acted overall, they had one of the absolute best moments of this episode. It was when the Doctor's looking in the mirror and the girls appear behind him, but he can't see them through the mirror, giving that illusion that, you know, they are actual vampires. And just the way the sort of pseudoscience of Doctor Who explained that, and it worked with those girls, just it was really well done in my opinion. So yeah, I really liked the vampires of this episode. My fourth favorite part of this episode. This is Spot. Oh wait, no. We are Venetians. If you didn't laugh at that part, then I just don't know what to say, because that was absolutely hilarious. Even though I think it was technically supposed to be a dramatic, serious point, yeah, it had me cracking up. Moving on, my fifth favorite part of this episode was, and I've kind of hit on it in previous points, but the comedy and the chemistry of the characters. Now, the comedy throughout this entire episode is really well done. It rarely doesn't hit its mark in some way. Again, not all of the moments are like laugh out loud, rolling over, you know, belly laughs, but it was still well done comedy. And then the chemistry, I already mentioned, between Rory and Amy, but even, like, you know, you throw the Doctor in there, the way that all three of them play off of each other, I just found really enjoyable. Now, it wasn't done to any great extent, I feel, in this episode, but it's definitely a foundation from which hopefully it will build upon in the next few episodes, or however long both Amy and Rory are with the Doctor. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that more, and their chemistry, and obviously the comedy, just really well done in this episode. Now, my sixth and final favorite part of this episode was Rory's fight with Francesco. And again, I keep using air quotes because it wasn't so much a fight as just a silly little back and forth. I don't even know how to explain it, really. It's like, basically, if you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's just a hilarious scene. I guess pretty well acted, but it was a moment that just really stuck out in my mind, and yeah, I just loved it. Now, moving on from there, it's time to get into my annoyances with this episode. And there were a few, as always. I feel like the annoyances are a little bit higher in number this season. I'll have to go back and check to see whether that's accurate or not. But anyway, starting with number one, the vampires' plan. And I guess more than anything, it would be Signora Calvierri's overall plan of having the girls come in and then converting them. And apparently it takes, it takes a while to do that. Whereas Francesco has, that's his name, right? Yeah, Francesco has the idea to just go out and convert the people against their will. And honestly, well, I mean, obviously they have the daylight working against them since that hurts them. But, I mean, they go out at night like regular vampires do and just convert the people over to their kind. That would have made so much more sense as far as the villain plan goes than just drawing them in and slowly doing it over time. I mean, I hate to give the bad guys ideas, but you would have stood a chance had you actually done that. You probably would have had all of that stuff accomplished and converted an entire city of people, or however many of them survived, before the Doctor arrived. I don't know, just me, one annoyance I have with this episode. My number two annoyance with this episode was Isabella and Guido, I guess is how you say the name, G-U-I-D-O. But anyway, unfortunately they fall into that trope that has become very obvious in this season of just expendable characters that are there as plot devices, essentially. Now, Guido, he did at least have some good moments. He had, that little heroic moment with the really cheesy line before he died, and, he kept, he was doing his best to try and get his daughter back. He, was essentially relentless in trying to get her back from the people that took her, or that he gave her to. But then Isabella was literally just a plot device. She had maybe, 3 lines the entire episode. And then I did find this part interesting because I wasn't expecting it, but when they just fed her to the spawn, or the male fish things, whatever they were in the water, I didn't expect that at all. But again, it was just plot device for the Doctor to get mad and get upset. at the Queen, or Signora Calvierri. I cannot remember these names very well. But yeah, it was unfortunate. Just I really hope that I'm able to enjoy more of these expendable characters from now on. Like more like Guido, you know, where he has some lines and actually serves a point to the plot, and not just expendable characters that serve no point other than just plot progression. Anyway, moving on, my third annoyance with this episode, and this was near the end with the Signora Calvierri, and it's when her cloak device breaks after it's damaged by Amy. But near the end, when she's going out to the canal or whatever it is, and she throws the device away, why was she still stuck as a human? Why was she in human form, and then, you know, obviously she turned into, or, well, she got eaten when she jumped into the water, but and maybe she purposely locked herself that way? If so, there was no indication that that could actually happen, because from what I could tell, when the device was messing up, it would slip and put her back into her original form. I don't know, just the whole logic behind that really, there was no logic from what I could tell. It just didn't make any sense. Anyway, moving on from there. Number 4 annoyance with this episode is that the end scene is honestly just weak. It kind of felt like a callback to the way some of the older episodes ended, but all we get is, like, you know, this zoom in of the Doctor's face and hear Calvieri's voice in his head about the cracks again, and then it just cuts to the credits. We don't really get anything beyond that. I don't know. It just felt really weak overall. If you feel otherwise, let me know, and let me know why. But it just, that end right before the credits just felt like nothing. It felt like, oh well, episode's over. Okay. Anyway, my 5th annoyance with this episode. Actually, no, that's going to be the last one. I actually thought of a few more, or at least one more, off the top of my head here. First of which is when the Doctor goes to try and stop Guido from, you know, blowing himself up, and the shed is deadbolted, or the deadbolt's turned. No, okay, I understand that there's a thing called, like, deadlock, or whatever, I guess, where the Doctor can't open things, but it's a 1850s or whatever point of history it was, a very old deadbolt to a door, and the lock was not wood, so why can't his sonic screwdriver undo the deadbolt? Again, I don't know if there's just some sort of rule. I know that with like modern technology or whatever, I can understand that not working, but it was an old deadbolt. Why could a sonic screwdriver not open it? And there was another annoyance I had, but I actually forgot what it was. So let's move on into, I guess, what is actually my 6th annoyance with this episode. And it is actually the quote of the episode, strangely enough. So let's get right into the quote of the episode so I can explain why it's an annoyance. And the reason why I picked this one is because the quote itself is very true and very powerful. And it's actually a line from Rory when he's talking to the Doctor. And he says, "You know what is dangerous about you? It's not that you make people take risks. It's that you make them want to impress you. You make it so they don't want to let you down. You have no idea how dangerous you make people to themselves when you're around." Again, awesome line. And pretty accurate. That's definitely a pretty accurate observation for Rory to make about the Doctor. However, had he said that specifically about Amy, I could understand that. However, Rory is saying this as if he's been around the Doctor for quite a while. He's seen many people try to impress him. So it doesn't make sense to me that Rory is saying this to the Doctor about people in general, not just Amy, since that's the only person that Rory knows the Doctor has been with. That line would make any sense. I don't know, maybe I'm contradicting myself, and maybe this is just me being way too nitpicky or thinking way too much about the line. But despite how much I liked that line, the fact that Rory delivered it that way just doesn't make any sense given what I feel is the continuity of what all is going on. But anyway, that's the end of my annoyances with this episode. Let's get into, well, I already mentioned the quote of the episode, so let's get into my favorite song of the episode. And there were two. My favorite song of the episode is actually The Vampires of Venice by Murray Gold. Well, both songs are by Murray Gold, pretty much all of them are, obviously. But yes, The Vampires of Venice is just such a good song. I mean, of the songs that were specific to this episode, it was absolutely the most dynamic. I absolutely love it. It will definitely go on to my playlists. And my runner-up was actually Signora Rosanna Calvierri. And the reason, even now, I'm not sure if I should have made that the actual song of the episode, because it's such a beautiful song. It starts out so somber and beautiful, and it has this sort of sad intonation to it, and then right at the end it picks up and it just gets so intense, and you can feel, I don't know that it's rage or anger or what, but there's just the way that song crescendos right at the end and just hits you like that. I absolutely love that song, and that's why I'm basically making both of these the songs of the episode, because it's just too hard for me to choose between the two. And now, as for my overall thoughts about this episode, I liked it. I have to say, I honestly did like this episode. I can completely understand how the way the vampires are portrayed can put some people off, but I feel like it was done in a way that, I mean, it was explained through the pseudoscience of Doctor Who, or well, at least for the specific episode. And I mean, for me, it didn't seem like too much of a stretch of an imagination that, given the other creatures we've seen in the show, that creatures like this could exist. I mean, especially like the Wolfman way back when Rose was around, and the ghosts in episode 3, and so on. I really feel like the episode was pretty well done overall. It did, well, other than the obvious, expendable characters, the end kind of petered out for me from the moment that Signora threw herself into the water, and then just that, again, that weak ending. Didn't particularly care for that, but overall, besides the end of the episode, I feel like the rest of it was pretty strong, especially as far as the comedy goes. Now, before I leave you all, about activate, well, I did activate my screwdriver. Anyway, before I leave you all, I have one question that this episode did bring to mind, and it's this. With Amy, Rory, and the Doctor, beyond the confusion of what happened the past episode and a half or so, are we going to have some awkward love triangle with these three? I mean, seriously, I assume it's probably going to happen, especially since Amy has shown that she does have kind of, sort of, I guess, feelings for the Doctor. And she loves Rory, but I don't know. I'm so worried that there's going to be one of those just awkward, stupid love triangles. I hope it doesn't happen, but I have a feeling it's going to. If it doesn't happen, please let me know, because it will make me feel so much better about the situation. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much for joining me for episode 52 of Discovering Doctor Who. I'm not sure yet when the next episode will be out, but I will do my best to get it to you as soon as possible, hopefully sometime this weekend. And until then, everyone, I will see you for Amy's Choice. Alonzi!